Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you, and welcome to the Sajdah Saturday morning coffee talk. This morning, we're going to be asking ourselves a question. Are you good enough for them? Let's talk about that on the other side. Stay tuned. Grab your coffee, grab your tea, share, like, and subscribe, and I'll be right back. Assalamu alaikum. Peace and blessings. You're tuned in to the Sajdah Saturday morning coffee talks, where we talk about life, love, and business.
O Allah, guide me among those whom Thou hast guided aright, and preserve me among those whom Thou hast preserved, and befriend me among those whom Thou hast befriended. Bless me in whatsoever Thou dost grant me, and deliver me from the evil of what Thou hast judged. Surely Thou judgest, and none can judge against Thee. And he whom Thou befriendest is not disgraced. Blessed art Thou, O Lord, and exalted be Thee above what they set up besides Thee. I bear witness, nothing deserves to be served besides Thee. And I bear witness that Muhammad is Thy servant and apostle. Amen.
Assalamu alaikum. What a grand morning it is. I pray that you all are enjoying lots of peace. Good morning to my dear mother, who I just love so much. She is in the chat. Happy Saturday. Greetings. From the treadmill. Come on, Regional Sky Girl. Get that workout in. She said, I pray that everyone is doing well. Don't forget to like and share. Thank you so much for promoting, for all of you who encourage people to like and share. What kind of tea y'all drinking on today? Or coffee? What you got? You got some good old roasted coffee in this cold weather. Y'all know we got so much snow yesterday in Chicago. It was unreal. And we have the nerve to complain in Chicago as if we aren't Chicagoans and if we don't know what the weather's like in the Midwest. But it's because we've been so spoiled. Walaikum salam, Sister Dawn, Sister Cynthia, 2X, walaikum salam, Brother Victor, walaikum salam. We complain, right? As if it don't snow in the wintertime over here. But we got spoiled because we were like 50 degrees on Christmas. So we thought we was in Florida somewhere. But we learned yesterday. And right now, it's snowing now. So we're getting even more snow. Sister Cynthia says she got some green tea. Um, Hope you all had a good week. Let me know how y'all week was. So I was busy. I had a bunch of presentations this week and working on some things, still grinding, working on the final funding to complete the Honorable Elijah Muhammad House. Y'all know y'all gonna hear about this thing for the rest of my life, so y'all might as well get used to it. Sister Alicia, thank you so much, sis. Wa alaikum salam. Um, yeah, so working on that. I have just been chunking away, working, putting aside everything that I can get and get my hands on, liquidating stuff. I didn't even realize I had that much stuff that was worth things, but it's worth it, right? To uplift the name of the great Messiah. So I'm excited. It's something that I'm very excited about and very honored. And what else? Getting my workouts in, just loving on myself with working out, loving on myself with just eating right. I'm one of those kind of persons. I treat myself like a queen. Whether it's the food I put in my mouth, whether it's the people I talk to or I'm around, whether it's the herbal chai tea that I make from my own individual herbs that I put together. That's what I'm working on now. These aren't my herbs, actually. It's some bunch of herbs that I bought. I got my cup. This is from Target. Root for your damn self. So I pray everybody is good. This Thursday we did our first in the series on building our economy. This Thursday we're going to be talking about setting up vendor relationships and trade partnerships. That's what our conversation is going to be, inshallah, on Thursday in our episode 2 of building our economy. But this week I did a presentation for a group of, for a school system, for a group of parents who have gifted children. And they wanted to hear about it from a child's perspective who is now an adult who was what they called gifted. And I told them when I first got there, I said, I really should have had my mother on this presentation because she can talk to you all as parents about learning how to allow your gifted child to be themselves, but then teaching them not to be a follower and then teaching them social skills. That was some of the balance that I had. But as I was studying for it, and I'm always looking for lessons where I can dig into myself and heal, right? Because we always have to heal something. I was really, around Thanksgiving, I was working on just healing around forgiveness, but primarily forgiving myself. Because a lot of times we have these ideas of perfection in our mind. I always talk about we want to get an A on the test and we don't really like the way we look. We may not be comfortable with where we are in life. And so we get hard on ourselves. And so sometimes you got to just look in the mirror, have that conversation with yourself and say, you know what? It's okay. I forgive you because maybe your body don't look the way it should look. Maybe you haven't really taken care of yourself. But where's the first step? The first step is in forgiveness. And in saying to yourself, you know what? Let me get myself together. I'm going to forgive myself. And then just start digging through your psyche and finding ways that you can deeper forgive yourself. And I went through that exercise around Thanksgiving. It was a very, very powerful and very uplifting and elevating. I've done this with some of you in coaching sessions. I then moved into just talking to myself about being good enough. And what I thought was interesting was then I get this request to speak as an adult who grew up as a gifted child and what that was like and what were some of the needs. And I discovered I discovered something that oftentimes The smart children are extra hard on themselves. Wa alaikum salam, Brother Lamont, Sister Sandra D. Um, we're hard on ourselves. And it's not just the so called gifted children, but in this process of preparing to speak, I discovered something. And so I created an exercise where I just said, you know what? You just got to heal from thinking that you're not good enough. We live in such a competitive society. And I will say for myself, um, growing up in those environments, being in all those programs, I grew up in Nebraska, and in the 80s, there was still racism. There's still racism now, but there was a lot of very blatant racism towards children who were smart. And so every time I went into an environment, there was this level of, I guess you could call it like competition, where, which is okay, it prepared me, but it was always there. And so when you're in those kind of competitive environments, you don't always win. It's not necessarily like playing basketball or football. Excuse me, I got a little, I put a dash of cayenne pepper in my chai. And so it starts clearing up stuff. It's not like quite like playing sports where you begin, youth sports is all about who reaches puberty first, right? And how strong they can be, and hoping that they can grow into it and sustain it on into becoming professionals. And a lot of us get weeded out of sports either because our size doesn't keep up with themselves. We grow really tall really fast and then we don't move on, or our body doesn't quite come together, or something oftentimes happen. That's why it's such a small select few of children who end up going into college sports and then professional sports. But in the academic world, it's a little bit different because you stay in that competition longer and you're always in it, because once you get elevated to certain environments at certain levels, you're always there. And in my case, I was always competing against these competitive white boys and white girls, always. And they were always trying to prove to themselves that I wasn't good enough and that I wasn't supposed to be there. And I was very fortunate in that my parents, some people, let me say this, some people's parents support them by teaching them all the ways in which they can be safe, how you can get a good job, how you can get the best grades. Walaikum salam, Sister Aletha, good morning. How you can get the best job, how you can get the good grades. And so everything is just safety. And that's how they raise us. And so my parents were a little bit different. My parents actually rooted for us, and they rooted for me. One of the last set of words that my father said to him, may Allah be pleased, when he said to me before he passed, he was rooting for me on the phone call. He's just rooting. Look, you smart, you educated, you can do anything you want. So I understood what it means to have somebody root for me. And so I was able to convert that and root for myself. And I was not as apt as a lot of other students in the program to use deceptive intelligence to just get along so I could be liked. I'm a lot less susceptible to that because my parents rooted for me and taught me what that felt like and what it looked like, and gave me a model where I could then begin to root for myself. And so that was one of the things that I conveyed. The other side of that, though, is that you even then still, as you are in these competitive environments, no matter how smart you are, how good you are, because there's a group of people, and in my case, I was always competing against these white boys and white girls. There's always a group of them trying to prove to themselves that I'm not good enough, that they're smarter than me, that I ain't supposed to be there. I always felt like, why y'all got to be worrying about me? Because I had learned from a very early age, maybe probably 3 or 4, to pull my wisdom down from God. That was kind of my thing, where I was able to get this relationship with God, almost like a very personal, intimate, friendly relationship with God. And I actually saw that with my grandmother. And I would watch her sit there and read those hymnals every day, and she'd be talking and mumbling to God. And I just learned to know that God was a friend and he was somebody that could give me what I needed. So when I got in those competitive environments, unlike a lot of the other children who were going off of their academic intelligence only, I was going off of that, but I also was going off of my relationship with God. But even with all of that, when you're constantly in these environments where these people are trying to convince themselves that you're not good enough, sometimes they convince you. Sometimes they convince you that you're not good enough. And so what do? We go into, and so sometimes we go, no, I know I'm good enough. Some of us can talk that smack and think it all, but there's the compromise that we make. I later know from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that it's deceptive intelligence. But what we do, which is the other part that my parents, especially my mother, was so hard on us about, is stop being a follower. Stop doing stuff just so that you can get along. Stop doing stuff just so that people can think you're cool. That's the negotiated deceptive intelligence that we do. And we've all done it. It's like, okay, I know I'm a little different. Well, part of what I would do is oftentimes I would go into environments, and if it was with people that I really wanted to like me, I would kind of take it down a couple notches. So I didn't always, I wouldn't always exercise my intellect the way that I probably could have. And I would just try to fit in and not be seen differently. Those are remnants of childhood, because part of what happens when you go through these different gifted programs, you start to suffer a little bit socially. Again, my parents tried to make up for that by creating social environments with the family. I mean, me and my brother, and all my stepbrothers, we feel like our parents are the coolest people in the world, and we want to be around them more than we want to be around our own friends. So that kind of helped. But when you get out of your parents' household and you then now have to socialize and integrate with people, the dynamics change. So you start figuring out, do I stay at this level where they kind of think I'm some kind of robot or a cyborg and they don't really want to mess with me? Or do I take it down a notch? Or do I do something that makes myself seem so cool? So that's why you see smart people and you can't believe it, but they end up sometimes on drugs. You see smart people that are like the people who party in the hardest in the clubs. Why? Because they really want to be accepted. They don't want to be seen as different. And it's a negotiation tool that we do just so that we can get along. But one of the ways that we can kind of hack ourselves out of that is to go through these experiences in our past and realize that we are good enough. Realize that you are good enough. The world may be saying, well, okay, you don't have $1 million, you ain't good enough. You don't have $100,000 to start a business, you ain't good enough. So what do? You go and you sit down on the couch and you go, oh, well, I'm not good enough. Some people may say, you know what, you ain't really that cool because you're really a nerd And so instead of you just going and take your nerd self and sit on down and not worry about what those people are saying, you out at the club, you just trying to party as hard as you can so they can go, oh, but she cool though. She real cool. You see that a lot with people who have money. Like wealthy people want the people who aren't as wealthy as them to think that they're cool. So they're buying all the drugs, doing all the partying, paying for everything, kicking it. Next thing you know, you've adopted a lifestyle that has you vibrating lower even than your own intelligence. So if your intelligence is here, what we're striving for is to vibrate beyond our intellectual capacity. But we're not even reaching our potential because we're vibrating down here because we want to be palatable to other people who are vibrating here. And we do that through lifestyle choices and interactions where we negotiate ourselves out of even our own intellectual vibration. So it's not that it doesn't matter that that person thinks that they're better than you. What matters is that they've convinced you that they're better than you. It doesn't matter that they think you're not good enough, or they think you're goofy, or they think you're not pretty enough. You ain't light enough. You ain't slim enough. You ain't tall enough. You ain't got enough muscles. It doesn't matter. What matters is that they've convinced you of that. And there's been spaces that I've gone into where people have said, well, you know, she's kind of weird. She's kind of nerdy, or she live in an alternative universe, or she whatever. And I found myself wanting to be like, hey, because if they convince you of that, then you start going, dang, maybe, you know, I kind of want to be cool. I want to fit in. I want to get along. So you just adopt this thing where you want everybody to say they love you. And that's where we get ourselves in a trap. Does it matter that everybody loves you? Does it matter that everybody thinks you're cool? Does it matter that some of those people don't think you're good enough to kick it with them? Does it matter that some of these people got to bring you down in order to get along with you? It don't matter as long as they have not convinced you. Walaikum salam, Marvelous Marva. As long as they haven't convinced you of that. And so it's important and that programming gets in your head as a child on an ongoing basis. But what happens when you grow up? What happens when you're grown and you're going into work environments that are competitive? You're going into environments where it can be quite intimidating to go into an environment where you're the only Black person. You got all these white folks there. They appear to be smarter than you. They seem like they have more access. What do you do? How do you deal with that? The idea is not to allow people to convince you that you're not good enough. That's the idea. They can think and say whatever they want. I'm so keen on that. I'm not even going into an environment with you where I have to compromise my standards and my behaviors that might even make my subconscious think I ain't good enough. I'm not adopting your viewpoint of me unless it's at my level or higher. I'm not doing it. I'm going to root. Y'all see the cup? I'm going to root for my damn self. Because when you, at the end of the day, ain't nobody coming over here to root for you except maybe your parents, if you're lucky and blessed to have parents like I had. If you're lucky. My parents are involved. My mother is involved in rooting for everything that I do. That's a cheerleader I know I got. So besides God, I know Allah got me. I know my mama do. But everybody's not blessed that way. And so we have to learn how to not negotiate ourselves out of our position. So you have to ask yourself, Are you good enough for them? And does it even matter? So I tell you to ask yourself first, are you good enough for them? Because that's going to help you see. See, because if you start off going, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm cool, I'm cool. Some people just, some people are so deceptive. And they know that they in your head. And they know that you don't think you're good enough. They know you just want to be loved. They know you just want to be cool. So what do? They put you in a position where they can treat you like you cool and you can act like you cool. And then they can feel better about themselves for talking shit behind your back, for dogging you out, for treating you a certain way. You know what? No, you don't get to do that because you don't own whether or not I think I'm good enough. I own it. And then I'm going to tell you something else. When you get to a certain age, and you go back, and I'll tell you another conversation I had this week. You go back and look at your experiences, and you say, you know what? I've been through enough. I deserve everything that I have in my desire. And I know I'm more than likely harder on myself than God is on me. So because God gives us grace and mercy, he ain't that hard on us. He blesses us even when we mess up, even when we ain't all that, even when we don't do the right thing. He's still taking care of us and navigating us, making sure we're safe. He still rolls with us. So 9 times out of 10, we harder on ourselves than he is on us. So one thing I know, especially once you get through a certain age, and I'm sorry for cursing, but I just got to use this for impact. I know I've been through enough shit. I deserve what I'm looking for and then some, because I ain't even looking for that much. But I've been through enough. I've been through enough trials, enough tribulations. I've been striving to do the right thing for a long, long time. And in many of our cases, so have you guys. Many of these cases, you guys been striving too. You've been through enough. You've been through it. So what's stopping you? If you're doing the right thing year after year, day after day, hour after hour, in and out, what is stopping you from matching physically what's happening with you on the inside? What's stopping you? It's your view of yourself and how you've allowed yourself to be negotiated out of your position. And even if you remove yourself from the bigger situation, you still are using deceptive intelligence to keep yourself at the same level because you love that emotional comfort that person who don't think you good enough is. See, when a person thinks you good enough, they treat you like they think you good enough. Don't deceive yourself. If a person ain't handling you properly, if they don't handle you in the right way to the point where you got to get away from them, then they don't see you. I don't care what their face look like. They don't see you as good enough. And you can pretend like they do. You can lie to yourself like you do. You can do certain things to make yourself feel good. But at the end of the day, they don't think you're good enough because if they did, they'd have treated you that way. So what am I saying here? I'm saying to us is that we have to do the healing work on ourselves so that we know deep down inside that we're good enough. Some of you have been through so much in relationships. I talk to sisters. I'm one of those persons. I haven't been through a lot in relationships, but I talk to sisters who've been through the ringer in relationships. And I said, well, you know what? You got to know right now that you're good enough for what it is that you desire. And so why don't you start working on cleaning up that vibration? What about yourself made you think that you weren't good enough, that caused you to put yourself or allow yourself to be in and stay in and get in that position? What prevented you from going, oh, hell no, I see these red flags, I'm walking away? It's because somehow that person has convinced you that you ain't good enough. Listen, y'all. Don't judge a person by what their face look like. Don't judge them by what their skin look like. Don't judge them by what they say out of their mouth. Judge them by their actions. Because a con person, a con man, or a con woman is going to con you out of your idea of yourself. They're going to con you right up out of it with a nice face, with nice words, with nice sex, with nice dinners. Because if they thought better of you, they would treat you better. When you got something that you think is precious, I got this citrine crystal right here. And if I'm looking at this citrine crystal and I think it's precious, what am I doing? I'm holding it. I'm keeping it safe. I got a little baggie for it. I'm making sure it's okay. I'm not going to be throwing it. I'm not going to sit on it. I'm not going to step on it. I'm not going to crush it. I'm going to make sure it's cleaned. I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to put it in a good place where I can look at it and behold it. I'm going to cherish it. I got my Honorable Elijah Muhammad pendant on here. I clean it. I keep it in a nice little baggie. I rub it. All praises due to Allah. I think about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I think about the house. I'm taking care of it because it means something to me. I can't convince the chain that I care about it if it's under the porch in the dirt somewhere and I don't clean it and I don't take care of it. So why do we let people convince us that they care about us when they don't treat us that way? Some things are basic, but because it's a person and because somehow their con artist techniques have made us think that we are not good enough. Their con artist techniques, their con game, that's the word I'm looking for. Their con game has made us buy into their con game and their thoughts about us. So the way they treat us becomes okay. And then we walk around going, oh, I'm not good enough. Intellect is only going to get you so far. It don't matter how smart you are. You can have the IQ of Einstein and then some. But if in the back of your mind, you don't think you're good enough, and somewhere along the way, somebody has convinced you that you're not good enough, then you're not going to manifest any higher. You're going to constantly be on that hamster wheel. You're going to constantly be going, man, I'm working so hard. My business is not doing any better. My relationships are not getting any better. Man, I don't even know if my relationship with God is improving. I'm not making any more money. I can't seem to get past this threshold. It's because you've been conned out of your position. And so you got to hack your mind back into the right space. Hack your mind back. And what do I mean by that? I was sitting up when I was going through this exercise. And I said, girl, oh no, I was going to tell y'all about this conversation. So I was talking to my former business partner, Dr. Dormu, the other day. And we were talking. And he said, you know what? Because we were talking about different people that we had hired, like different friends that we had hired. And we were laughing about how they treated us. The beautiful thing in our relationship is that we had each other to laugh. And I think that taught me a very valuable lesson because prior to him, I had other partnerships, but they weren't that close. It was just like a business partnership. And we got the job done, but it was different. But Jeff and I were able to save over 30,000 lives and limbs and make a lot of money and really bless a lot of people because we bounce things off of each other. So we would laugh. So we always had enemy attacks and stuff like that going on. And most of the time throughout the business, we wouldn't really see each other because he would be in surgery all day and I'm up in the office handling stuff. And so maybe like an hour or so at the end of the day, he'd come in the office and he'd be like, "What happened today?" I said, "Lord, let me tell you." And then he'd tell me something and we bounce things off of each other. But we would laugh about it. So we were laughing on the phone about how many people we had helped, different people we knew, how they would come in the office and try to dog us. And we would just be like, Lord have mercy. And we talked about the perils of being Black and in business and trying to do things. Some of that was more of a compromise that I had to make as a partner with him, because he really he probably has more survivor's guilt than I do. And so he was always trying to help somebody from the hood, somebody from back in the day. And it would always turn out into a funny situation most of the time, not always, most of the time. So he was just talking about, and he made a statement that showed me that I was drawing in these healing factors as I was going through this exercise. He said, "You know what?" He said, "Some of our new businesses are struggling right now." He said, "I know you pushing, trying to get the house open, and I'm working on this and that." And he said, "But I know one thing, we deserve for it to happen." And I just listened and I let him say more. And he started talking about not all, but almost all of the things that we have been through and what we had sacrificed. And he said, "Can't nobody tell me we don't deserve it." And he calls me Winnie. He said, "Winnie, one thing I can say, I know you deserve it." And I said, "Well, you know, you deserve it too." But I thought about that and I said, that's interesting. I said, because a lot of times, all the things that we've been through, we look back and we're ashamed about it. Like, man, why did I have to go through that? Or I can't believe that. And because we're ashamed about it, we try to just be cool with it, or cool with the people who abused us. And instead of moving past it, going, you know what, I forgive myself for that. But because I tolerated all of this and all of what I've been through, I know better today. And I know I deserve everything. I'm coming for everything that I deserve. I deserve it. I deserve it. I've been blessed to have the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan pray for me and pray over my life on a one-on-one basis. And I had to write down what he said, because the prayers were so powerful that I think I had a hard time accepting it. So I had to write it down. And then as I was going through this exercise, I went back to those prayers and I said, I see this one, because I have been through this, and this. And I was able to mathematically get myself there. And that's what we have to do with ourselves. You suffered long enough. You've been sick and tired long enough. You've been broke long enough. It's time. It's your turn. You've been struggling at this level long enough. So you got to declare to yourself right here, right now, today, I am good enough and I deserve it. And I'm no longer going to compromise myself and my position just to get along with somebody who is trying to convince me that I'm not good enough. Somebody who's trying to convince me of how they see me. I'm going to become so powerful in my conviction of how Allah has made me that it doesn't matter what you say. Some of you, like I said, you've been broke long enough. You've been striving at this level long enough. It's time for you to go to that next level. And that demand, that commandment, that making that absolute resolution in your mind is going to force your subconscious mind to find the solutions and find the ways to get yourself up out of that level that you've been stuck on. Some of us are saying, look, I've been single long enough. It's time out. So now we start doing the healing. What do I got to do? What healing do I need to do to make myself accept the blessing that I know Allah wants for me? I know He wants it for me because He takes care of me too good. He loves on me too good. He holds me in his bosom too tight. But as I'm there in the bosom, do I believe I'm there? Do I want to be there? Do I know I'm there? So I'm talking about mind hacks. If you book me for a consulting session, we're going to go through some of these mind hacks. But you can do this, you can do some of this stuff yourself. Sometimes we have to see past blind spots, because these blind spots are crazy, because we think, okay, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. But what are we manifesting? See, the energy don't lie. Whatever, however you vibrating, whoever you are, however you roll on a day-to-day basis, whatever you think, whatever you're listening to, whatever you're looking at, it's all impacting the environment that's around you. So I said, you know what? I've been working on myself so long. I've been working on myself so long, every single day. I've been studying every single day since I was probably 3 or 4 years old. So what does that mean? That I had to say, okay, Allah, why you put that in me? What's that for? Where are we going with this? So I start asking those questions and demanding of myself that means something. Let me see what y'all saying in the chat. Let's see. I see some of you all. Brother Victor say your authentic self rules. Yeah, that's exactly right. So Cynthia, I wonder how this will be for my grandson. I pour into him every chance I get. Yeah, I think the important thing is giving him tools that he can use when he gets older. When I talk about certain tools that I folded into my coaching that I received from my parents, of not being a follower, not negotiating myself out of my position, being myself. Listen, I laugh every time I look back on some of the pictures of me when I was growing up. And I asked my mother, Mom, why you let me wear that? She said, I was just allowing you to be yourself. The only time I looked cute was on picture day, because she would get the outfit together. She dressed me for senior pictures. Okay, put all this together. Girl, when I tell you I was in my Lisa Bonet, no offense against you, Sister Lisa Bonet, but you know that bohemian, I ain't got to match clothes, and it don't really matter how I put stuff together. But she was like, I just want you to be yourself. And when I tell you, my father was always telling me, well, you ain't got to worry about nothing. They can't beat you. They ain't pretty as you. They ain't educated as you. They ain't smart as you. They ain't disciplined as you. And he would just drill that. It was like a coach all the time. And that last conversation I had with him, I'm so grateful, because that's what he was telling me. And he said, I know one thing, me and your mother never worried about you and Kevin, because we always knew y'all was going to be all right, because we instilled that in you. And he just went into it. So instilling those tools so that a child knows what it looks like for somebody to root for them. Because I think sometimes what happens is that when our child is talented, whether they're gifted in education or gifted in sports, we're not really rooting for them. We're just supporting. I'm talking about rooting, and teach them how to root for themselves. Teach them, what kind of conversations do you have with yourself before you go and take that test? What kind of conversations do you have with yourself before you start your day? What is your image of yourself? Okay, let's see. Marvelous. Okay, you guys are greeting each other. I love it when y'all talking in the chat. Sister Regional Sky Girl said 3 weeks before my mom passed, she told me that she will never question me anymore, because when I say I'm going to do something, I find a way to get it done. 15 years later, when I question myself, I think of my mom. I get that. I get that, sis. And that was a beautiful lesson for you. But again, Some of us are at a certain age. We can say, I've been sacrificing long enough. I've been broke long enough. I've been hungry long enough. I've been fat long enough. I've been skinny long enough. I've been whatever it is, but it's time. I've been striving long enough. I've been studying long enough. I've been working out long enough. I've been trying to do the right thing long enough. I wasn't out there in the streets. I didn't grow up out there in the streets. When it came time for everybody else got in the streets, I didn't go. I wasn't getting high. I wasn't promiscuous, laying up with all kind of people. No, it's time. It's time right now to bring that on in. And that's just me talking to myself, but you all have things where you can talk yourself through that kind of stuff. You could say, look, I made a mistake. I stepped out there and got on drugs. I stepped out there and was living a certain life. But guess what? I know enough now today not to repeat that, and I am good enough. It doesn't matter whether or not somebody else thinks you good enough. It's whether or not they convince you that you're not good enough. Let me say that better. It doesn't matter if somebody else doesn't think you're good enough. Somebody else can look at you and say, she a little fat, her stomach a little big, her legs a little skinny, her head a little big, teeth a little buck. Oh, I don't know. He ain't in shape like I want. Somebody else can say he ain't got enough money. He don't drive a good enough car. It don't matter what they say. See, let me say this. It's not enough, and this is what we think when we think about haters. We think, let me just ignore them. We think, let me just ignore them. But in a lot of cases, we're not ignoring them. We're not ignoring them. Somebody could say to us today, you know what, you old, you fat, you dumb, you ugly. And we will say we're ignoring them, but in a lot of cases, we're not ignoring them. In a lot of cases, their conversation convinces us that we're fat, ugly, dumb, or whatever. This happens to us in religion as Muslims. A lot of times, if you're a strong Christian or a strong Muslim and people have a certain viewpoint of you, you start to have your own viewpoint, that same viewpoint of yourself. I'm going to tell you something. I've been a member of the Nation of Islam since 1990. And I've navigated this world as a Muslim woman. I never wanted to be a lost found. I never tried to be a lost found. I never tried to go into an environment and disguise myself and be like the best among the lost found. And when I say lost found, I'm sorry, I don't mean that to be offensive to anybody, but I'm talking about people who are still, we call ourselves the lost. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that we're the lost found members of the Nation of Islam, meaning Islam is our nature, our way of life, but we are lost. And then with the coming of Master Farad Muhammad, we are found. But so when we are lost and found, but we still have not accepted the way of life, we're just kind of stuck in that lost and found state. That's kind of the layman's way of explaining that. But I never wanted to be regular. I never wanted to be normal. I wanted everything that Allah came here to give us within my field. I believe that I was born in this day and time, in this situation, to be who I am, to know who I know, to be able to be a follower in this great work for a reason. He chose my parents for a reason, and I'm going to stand in it. So I've always moved around the world as Wendy Muhammad, and more recently as Sajdah Wendy Muhammad. Always. If you see me in Africa, I got pictures of myself in Korea. I'm sitting there, Wendy Muhammad, and I'm looking like a Muslim. And there's been times where I, threw on a little sundress or maybe wore something that maybe I probably shouldn't have worn. But for the most part, my record's in the 90 something percent. And I've always thought like a Muslim. I've always tried to think in situations, how would the minister want me to handle that? How would the messenger, the great Messiah, want me to handle this? How would Master Farah Muhammad want me? How would they want me to handle this? And that's how I was moving. And I never adopted, even I remember being on a big project during 9/11. And people were calling me like, oh, girl, be careful, because I know they're going to be treating y'all Muslims a different kind of way, or they're going to see y'all a different kind of way. But I never let myself be negotiated out of a position so that I found myself going, oh, I don't want to be a part of that. No offense against anybody who's had that trial, but that just has not been a trial that I had. And I'm grateful for that, because you're not going to negotiate me out of my position. Even if you kill me, I'm going to die a Muslim. So I'm not going to be negotiated up out of it. I'm going to make sure I understand my boundaries. The Holy Quran talks about living within limits and understanding not to let that wobble get out there too far. People who work with me, my business partner who I work with for 14 years will tell you, I'm always teaching about the wobble and self-improvement. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said this, so maybe we should do that. He told me the other day, he said, I think the only way up out of this for Black people is through the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He's not in a nation. He's not a Muslim. He got that from your sister. So what I'm saying is, don't let people negotiate you out of your position. I don't care how bad it gets. I don't care what they tell you. That is your opportunity to meet with Allah face to face. If they come to your door and say, I'm going to kill you, then you just better be saying, La ilaha illallah, there is no God but Allah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Die saying the Al-Fatiha. And that goes for every position in your life. Every position in your life. When I sit down in front of people, I'm always laughing because I say, I just look like this. But I done came to the table with Master Farad and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farag. I done came to the table with the three greatest men in history. I'm here at the table with them. You don't see them, but they up in here. They up in here. They up in here. So you're not going to negotiate me out of my position. Even if I make a mistake. Guess where my set point is? Is with my belief system and what I believe. You don't get to treat me less than the God that I am. And so I am good enough. And so what I'm striving to say to us, that we got 40 trillion cells within our body, and every one of them cells are good enough to be turned around. You can turn around disease. You can turn around pain. You can turn around low self-esteem. You can turn around narcissism and gaslighting and all these other things out here that they talk about. You can turn around and overcome any and all of that, as long as you hold fast to your position of who it is that you are. Just because somebody else sees you a certain way, just because they put propaganda out there, don't let the propaganda convince you that what they're saying about you is true. See, part of how the atrocities in history, like slavery, were successful is because of the propaganda. So when they went around and said the Black man is not good enough, and the woman's a whore and he's a buck, and they are descendants of Ham, they're cursed. When they went around saying all of that, they did it with a Bible in their hand and brought us here on a ship named Jesus. So they were convincing themselves. And who was it? Lyndon Baines Johnson said, if you convince a white man that he's better than if you convince the lowest white man, I'm paraphrasing, that he's better than any black man, he will open his pockets to you. Look it up. So you convince the lowest white man that he's better than us. He opens his pockets to you, gives you all his freedoms. Then you convince us that we're not good enough, that we're so low life, that we're slaves. And that is how they were able to keep these institutions going. But if at any point we had said, you know what, I don't believe you, I ain't no slave, there'd been a whole lot more rebellion. And what I'm saying to us today, that we got life-giving teachings on the scene, we got knowledge on the scene. It's time to wake up. And in those little moments where you convince that narcissistic person, in those little moments where that narcissistic person is attempting to convince you that you're not good enough, when that insecure person is trying to convince you that you're not good enough, don't you allow them to convince you of that. Don't allow, you don't get to convince me. I am good enough. I've been striving long enough. I deserve everything that I am asking, everything that is in my vortex of desire that I have laid at the feet of Master Fard Muhammad. I deserve all of that and then some. You are good enough. You are more than good enough. Okay, let's see. Y'all talking in the chat. Let me see before we go. Let me, we got a couple minutes here. Let's see. Sister Aletha say, yes, mind hack. I call it an exorcism. Sajdah is the queen of exercising your mind. Oh man, poor Sister Aletha. Yeah, she done been through some of my exorcisms, but I'm grateful to be able, I hope that I've been able to be of assistance, Sister Aletha. Because my thing is, I want to see you win. I want to see us win. And so whatever I got to do, whatever I got to tell you, if I got to lay it on the line to tell you, to help you solve a problem, get to that next level, I'm going to do what I got to do. If I got to pick you up and take you somewhere and show you something, whatever it is, however I got to help you solve that problem, I don't believe there's no problem that we can't solve. Sister Cynthia 3X said that form of love and support lasts forever. Amen. Sophia Shabazz, welcome sis, says my dad was great at setting the bar high, but also creating a nothing is enough for the man for whom enough is never enough complex. Ooh. I'm loving that, Sister Sophia. Nothing is enough for the man for whom enough is never enough. That's what I'm talking about. Was to the doctor at the top of the club. Okay, I think she's leaving. Okay, mom says, my mother's skills came from me telling myself the truth, recognizing I had been a follower, people pleaser, etc. This is my mother saying this, that she transformed her insecurities and challenges that she had so that she made sure she didn't pass that down to her children. She told herself the truth and recognized that she herself had been a follower and a people pleaser. That's what I call good parenting right there. Sandra D, this is so deep and nurturing to my soul. Thank you. All praises due to Allah, sis. Haki Shakur Ami said, much respect to you. Thank you. Much respect to you too, dear brother. Sister Sophia said, I'm here with you. It's who you are. Praise be to Allah. Yeah, it's who I am. It's who I am. Listen. That's right. No compromise. Tell them. That's right. Listen. What you seeing is you seeing a new person. You just seeing what my mother said that she poured into her child. I know what my father poured into his child. And then I was blessed to come into an incredible, beautiful, supreme wisdom teaching. I'm a whole new type of person that you ain't never seen before. So because I got attributes about me that you can't touch and that you can't recognize, how dare you think you're going to make me feel like I'm not good enough? Get your popcorn. As my grandmother would say, you're going to read about me. You're going to see. You're going to see. Because I'm something that you've never seen before. And each and every one of us that are submitting ourselves to this type of self-improvement and this type of supreme wisdom, They don't even know who we are. They can't even fathom how powerful and amazing we are, and how much our development is going to save they raggedy backsides. See, because we ain't even about self. We're about self-improvement, but that self-improvement is the basis of our community development. So the wasted cities we're going to rebuild, the food, feeding ourselves and feeding our people, introducing much needed goods and services into our community, establishing a better way of life in our land. That's what we're going to do it. I'm a as Sister Sandra D said, I'm going to stand on it. Mom said, amen. Respect yourself. Stand on your beliefs. That's exactly right. All right, y'all. Peace and blessings. Y'all have a good Saturday. Stand on what you believe in. And don't stand on it if you don't believe in it. And stop convincing low vibrational people. No. Stop allowing low vibrational people to convince you that you are not good enough. I'm here for everything that Allah has laid in my path and then some. How could I turn my back on being a Muslim when he brought me to this? I didn't know nothing about it. I didn't know nothing about it. My mother talks about different hints that she had throughout her pregnancy and throughout her life. Who knew that he would come through my parents and get their seed and get him and choose one of them? Who knew that he would choose you? I'm just saying. Who knew? So stand up and stand on it. Be proud. Part of the reason why a lot of us are not manifesting is because there's conditions in our life that I'm not a good enough Muslim. I don't make it to the mosque all the time. Oh man, I missed a prayer. This and that. Stand up on who and what it is that you know to be the truth. If you was perfect, then it wouldn't be no need for supreme wisdom. None of us are perfect. Even all of us that are at church every day, all of us that's at the mosque every day ain't perfect. Ain't nobody perfect. So you stand up and stand in your truth. Don't let nobody negotiate you out of your position. Don't walk away from your position in this powerful kingdom, if you will, because somebody somewhere said that you wasn't good enough because you made a mistake, or because maybe you ain't all that, or they think you ain't all that. Well, guess what? If Allah is waking you up every day and he is showering you with his grace and his mercy, you are more than enough. And if you can't think of nothing else, I just want you to realize that Allah will never forsake you. And he never has. You have no reason to believe that your dreams will not come true. You have no reason to believe that you can't get what you want out of life. You have no reason to believe that, and you should never move that way. Because if he wasn't going to bless you, all he had to do was just leave you alone. You didn't have to wake up this morning, but you woke up and you here, and every day is an opportunity to have more hope. Don't matter how old you are. With the right wisdom and the right diet and the right lifestyle, you can damn near turn back the hands of time. People doing it every single day. It doesn't matter if you're in the hospital. It doesn't matter if you're sick. Doesn't matter if you're suffering, if you're heartbroken, if you're divorced, if you're bankrupt. These are all just signs and symbols from the world. But you ain't bankrupt with Allah. You ain't divorced from Allah. If you suffering from a disease, just reconnect to him, and that dis-ease will begin to dissipate. You can see your way through. You can survive. All you got is hope. All you got is hope. These are just signs and symptoms. If somebody says you are broke, you are educably, mentally retarded, this is just labels that man puts on things. not God. God ain't never said, hey, brother so-and-so, you bankrupt. Hey, brother bankrupt. Hey, sister divorce. Allah don't address us like that. He don't say, hey, old sister. He don't say, hey, ugly brother. He don't say, hey, fat man. He don't say, hey, skinny girl. He don't say, hey, bumpy face. He don't say, hey, Mr. Bad Breath. He don't say that. Allah don't look at us like that. And that is where our strength has to come from. And that's how we have to define ourselves. All right, y'all, I'm going to get off of it. We are more than enough. Have a good weekend, everyone. You are definitely more than enough. Please support the completion of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad House. You see the website is here going across the bottom. Support sajdahhouse.com. It'll show you the different ways if you want to be a sponsor, all the different ways in which you can support. Cash App, if you enjoy this information, I give the game away, but I charge for services. So if you believe and you like and subscribe to this, or you like this content, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the super chat button, go to your Cash App, put something on it, put some dip on that chip, a little dip on that chip. Cash App is Sajdah Enterprises. Look, it's just paper that we're transferring from one person to another. All right, I'm gonna get off of it. Everybody have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Do something nice for somebody and make sure you support a cause bigger than yourself. You're good enough. Don't let nobody negotiate you out of your position.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that history develops the springs and motives of human action, which display themselves most powerfully in the destiny of man. History actually motivates and stimulates human action. Sometimes you may not know what to expect from yourself, but if you only could read the autobiography of someone from among your people who has achieved, then that tells you what is possible to do. Black people in America have labored without understanding the realm of possibility for black people. And because we don't know what is possible for us as a people to achieve, we labor under the misconception that the accomplishments of Caucasian people should be our guide. And as a result, we keep on trying to be like them rather than trying to be ourselves. This is a result of being robbed of history.